in the eyes of justice. In a packed courtroom in Albany, New York, Judge Ronald Wexler, one of the most respected yet feared judges in the state, adjusted his glasses as he peered over the wooden bench. His gray hair and stern demeanor commanded attention. Across from him stood a fragile little girl, no older than 5, clenching her tiny fists, her blue eyes filled with bravery. The girl's name was Emily Sanders. Her mother, Rebecca Sanders, had just been sentenced to 5 years in prison for allegedly being an accomplice in a bank fraud case orchestrated by her abusive ex-husband. Rebecca had pleaded not guilty, insisting she had no knowledge of the crime, but the evidence had been manipulated. Her appointed attorney had given up. Just as the judge was about to finalize the ruling, a quiet voice echoed across the courtroom. "Your Honor, you can't punish my mommy for something she didn't do." The room fell into stunned silence. Emily had slipped past the guard's side and stood before the entire courtroom, alone, brave, and innocent. Judge Wexler lowered his glasses. "Young lady, you're not allowed to speak here without permission." But Emily didn't flinch. "I saw everything. Mommy never did anything wrong. My daddy, he made her sign papers and told her not to say anything or he'd hurt me. But I don't want her to go to jail for me." A gasp rippled through the audience. Reporters, attorneys, and onlookers leaned forward. Judge Wexler's face twitched, not with anger, but with something deeper, humanity. He motioned for the bailiff to bring the girl forward gent. Emily, you're a very brave little girl. What did you just S.A.E.?" He threatened her, "Your Honor." He made her sign things. "I heard him. He told her to lie." Wexler sat back slowly. Suddenly, the courtroom wasn't just a place of law. It had become a place of truth. A child's testimony. Judge Wexler stared silently at the little girl standing before him. He had presided over thousands of cases in his long career, but never before had a child so young spoken with such conviction and courage. The courtroom was frozen in time. Assistant District Attorney Linda Covington leaned forward at the prosecution's table, her pen slowly falling from her fingers. On the defense side, Rebecca Sanders sat in handcuffs, tears streaming down her cheeks. Her eyes locked on her daughter, trembling between hope and fear. "Emily," the judge said softly, breaking protocol, "can you tell me exactly what you ram?" Emily nodded, her pigtails bouncing, visibly shaken. The public defender stood speechless. Suddenly, what seemed like a closed case was opening again. Judge Wexler motioned to the T recorder. "Let the record reflect that the child's testimony has introduced new material evidence. I'm ordering an emergency recess. Bailiff, notify Child Protective Services and request a child psychologist." Immediately, Emily was gently escorted to a side room. Rebecca collapsed into her chair, her soul crushed by guilt, but now glimmering with hope. For the first time in years, she wasn't fighting alone. Behind closed doors, in the private chambers of Judge Wexler, he sat quietly with a file open in front of him. His clerk, Michael Trent, Apro, D cautiously. "Sir, are you really considering reope?" The trial. Wexler Lou. Kid up. Eyes clouded. "That little girl reminded me of my granddaughter. Same age. Same fire. I'd be a monster if I ignored this." Michael nodded solemnly. Across town, a team from Child Protective Services reviewed the home environment of the Sanders household. Neighbors confirmed what Emily had said, shouting late at night, bruises on Rebecca's arms, fear in her eyes. No one had reported it, but everyone had seen something. Meanwhile, the original arresting officer, Officer Jacob Morales, received a call from Wexler's office. He had doubts about the initial case, but had been silenced. Depar. It's mental pressure. "I've been waiting for this call," Morales whispered. "I'm ready to talk." The system that once failed Rebecca was beginning to show cracks. A chain of truth was unraveling. The confession tape. Morales met with Judge Wexler's investigator the next morning. Handed over a USB flash drive. "I made this recording 3 months ago. I wasn't supposed to have it, but I kept it just in case." The video showed an off-the-record interview between Morales and Rebecca's ex-husband, Troy Mathers, who smugly admitted to forging bank documents and coercing his ex-wife to sign under duress. "She's weak," Troy chuckled in the video. "She'll do anything if she thinks T'll protect that brat of hers." The room went silent as the video ended. The judge clenched his jaw. He immediately ordered a forensic analysis and reopened the case officially. He also instructed that Troy Mathers be found and brought in for questioning. For the first time in 4 years, Rebecca Sanders had real evidence. Emily's words had broken open a locked box of lies. Public outcry. When news of the courtroom moment spread, especially the video of Emily standing in front of the judge, social media exploded. Hashtags like hashtag Justice for Rebecca and hashtag Emily the Brave trended nationwide. TV networks aired clips from the case, and public pressure mounted on the district attorney's office. Protesters gathered outside the courthouse with signs reading "Believe mothers and protect our children, not criminals." The Gov. Earner of New Y. Orc issued a statement. "No innocent parent should serve time for protecting their child. We are watch ing this case closely." Emily became a symbol, not of victimhood, but of truth. Journalists lined up for interviews. Bu. T. Judge Wexler I. Sued a strict gag order. "This is not a show. W. This is a fight. T for a woman's freedom." The new trial begins. A week later, the courtroom was packed again. A new defense attorney, Liam Porter, a sharp civil rights litigator, now represented Rebecca. He walked in with confidence, carrying the file T. Hat would destroy the prosecution's argument. "Your Honor, with your permission, we present new evidence of coercion, abuse, and police negligence. It's in the original case." The prosec. Uder protested, but Judge Wexler raised his hand. "Let the jury see everything. This trial is no longer about paperwork. It's about truth." Emily sat quietly with a social worker in the front row, holding a stuffed bear Judge Wexler had given her. She didn't understand all the words, but she knew something important was happening. Her voice had changed everything. Troy's arrest. Just 2 days into the retrial, Troy Mathers was located in Pennsylvania, hiding out in a friend's cabin. Armed federal agents surrounded the property and arrested him without incident. In custody, Troy's arrogance faded. He was shown the footage Morales had kept, along with witness statements from neighbors and past partners. Back in court, Troy was brought in wearing an orange jumpsuit. Emily's eyes widened, and she clutched her bear tightly. Troy glanced at his daughter, and for a second, something like shame crossed his face, but it was too late. He was charged with multiple counts: fraud, coercion, domestic abuse, and obstruction of justice. The tide had officially turned. Rebecca takes the stand. When Rebecca was called to testify in her own defense, the room held its breath. Her voice cracked as she began. "I was scared every single day. I didn't sign those papers because I wanted to. Ign them because he'd take Emily, or worse." She looked at the jury, tears falling freely. "I thought staying quiet would keep her safe. I never imagined I'd end up here. But if my silence hurt anyone, I'm sorry. I just wanted to be a mother." The jury was visibly moved. Some wept. Even Wexler removed his glasses and rubbed his eyes. The verdict. It took the jury only 4 hours. When they returned, the 4 women stood and spoke clearly. "We, the jury, Finn, D, the defendant, Rebecca S. Anders, not guilty on all counts." Cheers erupted in the room. Emily ran to her mother, and they collapsed into each other's arms, sobbing. Judge Wexler smiled. For the first time in a long while. Justice delayed is not all. Justice denied. Case dismissed. A new beginning. 2 months later, Rebecca and Emily moved into a small house in upstate New York, far from the city. With help from a legal fund started by supporters, Rebecca began studying law, determined to help other women like her. Emily started kindergarten, where she was known as the girl who spoke to a judge. Judge Wexler retired later that year, but not before writing a book called The Day Truth Wore Pigtails, dedicating it to one little girl who changed everything. And somewhere In that quiet neighborhood at night, before bed, Emily Well, D-Wisp, R. Mommy, I'm glad old the truth. And Rebecca would reply, U.S. Avid me, sweetheart. You saved us both. Gathering storms. 3 weeks after Rebecca's acquittal, the newfound peace in their upstate home was pierced by an unmarked envelope slipped beneath the door. Inside lay a single photograph, Emily playing on the swing set, a red X scrawled over her face. Rebecca's pulse hammered. The past was clawing back. Across town, attorney Liam Porter was preparing a civil suit against the NYPD and the First Pilgrim Bank for negligence and malicious prosecution. Officer Morales, guilt-ridden yet resolute, agreed to testify. So did 2 junior clerks who had watched evidence disappear under an assistant DA's orders. Meanwhile, Judge Wexler, now semi-retired, quietly convened with the State Judicial Conduct Commission. He suspected a deeper rot, a ring of officials trading false convictions for kickbacks. As thunderheads massed over the Catskills, so too did unseen forces around Rebecca and Emily, promising that their fight for justice was only entering its fiercest chapter. Shadows in the hallway. In the marble corridors of Albany law, Rebecca attended her first evening class, clutching a stack of textbooks like a shield. Though 15 years older than most students, her lived pain sharpened her questions. When Professor Dana Whitfield lectured on Brady violations, Rebecca's hand shot up. What recourse exists when the state hides exculpatory evidence? The room fell silent. Whitfield's approving nod told her she belonged. Yet surveillance footage later showed a shadowy figure tailing Rebecca to the parking lot. That same night, Liam's office was ransacked, files on Troy Mathers missing, Morales' recorded statements erased from a main server. Undeterred, Morales had kept analog BA cups. He met Liam at a diner, Slee, ding a battered cassette across the table. I trust metal more than clouds, he muttered. Outside, rain blurred neon into streaks, and oh, men that proof alone wouldn't win the war. The second trial, State versus Mathers. The courthouse overflowed with reporters when Troy was marched in wearing shackles, a pale imitation of his once smug self. The prosecution painted him as a mastermind. The defense, hired by a mysterious lobbyist, cast him a victim of economic pressure. Emily, now 6, her courage tempered by therapy, took the stand clutching her stuffed bear. Court protocol bent for her gentle testimony. Daddy said papers were magic. If Mommy signed, monsters wouldn't come. Her words, simple yet searing, pierced the jury's composure. During cross-examination, Troy's lawyer faltered, unable to vilify a child without souring the room. Outside, supporters chanted, clergy prayed, and activists live-streamed every recess. The public, hungry for authenticity, found it in Emily's trembling voice. Whistle in the dark. Officer Morales' grand jury statement ignited a political firestorm. He described quotas for quick closes that rewarded detectives for convictions, not truth. Bonuses disguised as consulting fees from First Pilgrim's compliance department, and a sealed memo linking 2 assistant district attorneys to offshore accounts. That night, his squad car was sideswiped by a black SUV. He survived with cracked ribs, but refused hose. Idle care until he placed 3 inquiry ped thumb drives in Wexler's trembling hands. If I die, Judge, make it count, he whispered. The old jurist had seen enough men fall silent. He directed U.S. Attorney Fern Delga, due to open a federal RICO investigation, widening the battlefield beyond state lines. Lines in the sand. Threats escalated. Rebecca awoke to find their mailbox smashed, her civil suit summons shredded across the lawn. Liam's tires were slashed, anonymous calls hissed, drop the case or bury the girl. Instead, they fortified. Local sheriff deputies initiated round-the-clock patrol. The governor's office assigned a special protection detail after a viral op-ed asked, will New York let corruption silence a 6-year-old heroine? Across a sterile boardroom, First Pilgrim executives convened crisis management consultants. One urged a quiet settlement. Another demanded scorched earth. Their decision to fight would determine whether decades of backroom dealings stayed buried or surfaced like corpses in thawing ice. Breakpoint. Mid-trial, a bomb threat emptied the courthouse. As bomb squad robots searched for devices, Judge Mallory Grant, presiding over State versus Mathers, convened in a secret chamber. FBI cyberforensics traced the threat to a burner phone purchased 2 miles from Troy's brother's apartment. When agents arrived, they discovered not explosives but boxes of shredded ledgers and a laptop with crypto wallets labeled FPB Legal Fund. Evidence piled into a mountain even the most cynical juror could not ignore. Troy's attorney requested a plea bargain. The DA scoffed until federal agents unsealed an indictment against the assistant DA herself. The dominoes began to fall. Collapse of the House of Cards. Public hearings televised nationwide revealed a labyrinthine scheme. Falsified loan defaults, forged notary stamps, and kickbacks funneled through shell charities. Board members resigned live on camera. One jumped from a penthouse balcony before agents could serve papers. Rebecca, seated beside Liam, watched the chaos with conflicting emotions. Relief that truth was surfacing, grief for those still victimized. She vowed to establish a non-profit clinic for coerced defendants once the dust settled. Emily, coloring quietly in the corner, asked, "Does this mean nobody can hurt us, Enem? Ore?" Rebecca knelt, tears slipping free. "It means we're closer, baby. Closer than ever." Day of Justice. On the 48th day of proceedings, Troy Mathers rose to plead guilty on all counts. The courtroom exhaled. He received 40 years wit. "How parole?" Judge Grant addressed Emily directly. "Your courage changed the course of justice in this state." Cameras clicked as Emily smiled shyly, unaware her bravery had inspired new legislation. The Emily Act, mandating trauma-informed review when testimony suggests domestic coercion. That evening, candles lit courthouse steps. Strangers hugged Rebecca, pressing donation checks into her hands. Far away, in a dorm room lit by a single desk lamp, a first-year law student. T Googled Emily Act scholarships, deter. Mine to follow the path a little girl had blazed. Phoenix's rise. 2 years later, Rebecca passed the bar. Her swearing-in ceremony filled the same hall that once echoed with Troy's lies. Liam, now her law firm partner, handed her a plaque, from survivor to advocate. Officer Morales, healed and reinstated with honors, joined their nonprofits board. Judge Wexler, silver beard grown long, delivered a keynote titled The Law's Moral Pulse, crediting Emily for reminding the bench that humanity must temper gavel steel. On opening day of the Sanders Justice Clinic, lines wrapped around the block. Refugees of wrongful charges found hope in Rebecca's steady gaze, while Emily, now 8, handed out lemonade and told each visitor, "My mom will help you." She helped me. The end of the beginning. A decade later, spring sunlight streamed through the auditorium of Columbia Law. A woman in a tailored navy gown walked across the stage. Emily Sanders, Juris Doctor, summa cum laude. In the front row, Rebecca, dignified in her judge's robes. She had been appointed to the family court the previous year. Clasped trembling hands. When Emily accepted her diploma, she searched the crowd until her eyes found her mother's. Judge Wexler, retired but spry, stood beside Rebecca, misty-eyed. Officer Morales and Liam Porter F. Langtham, living proof that justice, thou G.H. fragile, can endure. Emily approached the podium. When I was 5, I told a judge that my mommy was innocent. That moment changed my life, and many others. Today, I dedicate this degree to every child whose voice still trembles in a courtroom. We hear you, and we will fight for you. Thunderous applause rose like a benediction. In that instant, the scars of a brutal past transformed into the architecture of a brighter future. And as mother and daughter embraced beneath a shower of blue and white Soanef, Eddie, the chapter that began with a frighteen plea in a wooden courtroom, found its serene close. First day in chambers. Fresh from a bar, Emily begins her federal clerkship under Judge Ava Cordell. a reform-minded jurist in Manhattan. On day one, she's handed a towering stack of habeas petitions from women incarcerated on coerced accomplice charges, the very injustice that once engulfed her own mother. As Emily pores over affidavits late into the night, she realizes dozens of prisoners were convicted by the same crooked network that Troy Mathers once fed. The echoes of the past, it seems, haven't stopped reverberating. Ghosts in the docket. Judge Cordell gives Emily latitude to investigate. Emily discovers sealed forensic accounting reports hinting that First Pilgrim Bank laundered money through private prison contracts. She quietly phones Liam Porter, now running the Sanders Justice Clinic's litigation wing, and Rebecca, now a family court judge. Together, they hatch a plan to reopen convictions, knowing it will pit them against billion-dollar interests. The consortium. In a Wall Street skyscraper, CEO Wesley Hallbrook chairs an emergency meeting of the consortium of custodial assets, the secretive umbrella owning both First Pilgrim's bad loan portfolio and several private prisons. They brand Emily an existential threat. An ex-CIA consultant named Irene Valdez is hired for reputation containment. Her first directive: find Emily's pressure points. Strike at dawn. Emily's clerk office is ransacked. Encrypted drives vanish. That night, a brick shatters Rebecca's living room window with a note: withdraw or watch it all burn. Undeterred, Emily and Rebecca move under U.S. Marshals protection. Officer Morales volunteers for the protective detail, honoring the promise he made a decade earlier. Whistleblower Zero. A new ally emerges. Owen Lee, a junior data scientist for the consortium, leaks internal ledgers proving a kickback pipeline. Each coerced conviction netted the group $27 per inmate per day. Emily dubs him Whistleblower Zero. Using secure channels, she and Liam prepare a federal class action. 2,000 pages, 147 plaintiffs, and one explosive RICO count. Capitol Hill. Senator Clarissa Holt invites Emily to testify at a Senate Judiciary hearing on private prison corruption. National TV cameras capture Emily's composed fury as she recounts her childhood on the witness stand. Stocks for prison operators plummet overnight. The consortium's lobbyists scramble. Yet the greater consequence is a tidal wave of letters from inmates begging for help. Each envelope a life in limbo. Valdez's trap. Irene Valdez plants disinformation. Forged bank statements implying Liam embezzled clinic funds. A blogger publishes the scandal, and donors freeze contributions. Liam's reputation, built over 15 years, teeters. Emily uses her clerkship computer to backtrace the leak, discovering Valdez's signature metadata. She demands a U.S. attorney open an obstruction investigation. The Cyber Blitz. Owen Lee hacks the consortium's internal Slack, downloading years of chat logs, proof of witness intimidation. In retaliation, the consortium unleashes a bot-driven smear campaign, painting Emily as an extremist who wants criminals freed. Judge Cordell publicly condemns the digital assault, and the FBI's cybercrimes unit begins seizing servers. Courthouse siege. On the eve of the RICO hearing, armed protesters paid by a dark money pack surround the Manhattan courthouse. Morales and U.S. Marshals form a cordon allowing Rebecca, Emily, and 60 former inmates to enter safely. Inside, Judge Cordell refuses to delay. Justice delayed is justice denied, she intones, gaveling the most consequential civil case of the decade into session. Opening salvo. Liam delivers a blistering opening statement. My clients are not numbers on a spreadsheet. They were mothers, sisters, daughters sold for profit. Defense counsel counters that the consortium merely provided housing per state contract. The first witness, a grandmother jailed 8 years for forging a check under an abusive spouse's threat. Her testimony reduces jurors to tears. Data on the record. Emily takes the stand as expert witness, translating whistleblower data into plain English. Giant screens flash flowcharts of money routes. Arrest, plea bargain, private prison dividends. Under cross-examination, she refuses to rattle, citing line item audits by name, date, and dollar. Valdez unmasked. FBI agents arrest Irene Valdez mid-trial. Prosecutors reveal she ordered hacking, bribery, and even the brick attack. Her arrest dismantles the defense's credibility. In the gallery, Rebecca exhales for the first time in weeks. Betrayal on Wall Street. CEO Holbrook, desperate, seeks a secret plea bargain. Dissolve the consortium in exchange for immunity. The Justice Department hesitates until Emily insists the victims deserve their day in court. The offer is rejected. Holbrook's Wall Street allies abandon him. Jury locked in. Deliberations stretch to a tense fourth day. Rumors swirl of a hung jury. Morales catches an unmarked van tailing juror number 7 and foils an intimidation attempt, securing video that Judge Cordell admits into evidence, instructing jurors to disregard coercive contact but continue deliberation. Breaking point. Owen Lee collapses from exhaustion after 72 straight hours decrypting final ledgers. The files reveal offshore accounts tied directly to 3 state senators. Media frenzy erupts. Campaign offices are raided. Public outrage hits fever pitch. Verdict delivered. Courtroom packed. Cameras rolling. The foreperson's voice shakes. We fine for the plaintiffs on all counts. Damages: $3.2 billion plus punitive awards. Judge Cordell designates half to a victim's restitution fund and half to a public interest trust for nationwide criminal justice reform. Aftershocks. Private prison stocks crater 60%. 15 states announce contract cancellations. Rebecca spearheads a state task force to review every coerced accomplice conviction of the past 20 years. Emily drafts the legal framework. The Redemption Project. With settlement proceeds, the Sanders Justice Clinic expands to 14 cities, rebranded the Redemption Project. Liam directs litigation. Owen leads cybersecurity. Morales trains investigators. Their mission: free 10,000 wrongfully convicted within 5 years. A mother's release. In Louisiana, Emily personally delivers exoneration papers to Margie Dupree, a grandmother who missed her daughter's funeral while imprisoned. The hug that follows goes viral. A photograph symbolizing what justice restored looks like. Echoes overseas. Requests flood in from Canada, the UK, and South Africa. Emily addresses the UN about profit-driven incarceration. A resolution passes urging member states to audit private prison contracts. The battle Rebecca once fought in a single courtroom now shakes global policy. Holbrook's Gambit. Facing decades in prison, Wesley Holbrook attempts to bribe a guard and escape during transfer. The plot fails. Footage of him in shackles underscores how power has flipped. Newspapers headline: Kingpin caged by child witness, 20 years later. The Scholar's Chair. Judge Wexler, frail but fiery at 84, is invited to lecture at Yale. He retells Emily's first courtroom stand, concluding, "The law is alive only when the smallest voice can shake its pillars." Students erupt in applause. A new generation of reformers is born. Dark Money Reprisal. Disgraced political operatives bankroll a smear documentary accusing Emily of fabricated heroics. The film premieres online, then is swiftly discredited when Morales releases unedited body cam footage from Emily's original 5-year-old testimony. Public sympathy rebounds stronger. Healing the healers. Rebecca, internalizing years of trauma, suffers a panic attack during a custody hearing. Emily insists she take a sabbatical. Mother and daughter retreat to the Catskills cabin where Troy once hid, now reclaimed by nature. They fish, read poetry, and remember that justice work must be sustained by joy. Return to the bench. Recentered, Rebecca returns to court with renewed compassion, implementing a pioneering restorative family docket that diverts nonviolent domestic cases into counseling programs. Early data show a 40% drop in recidivism. Tech for Truth. Owen launches an open-source AI tool that flags prosecutorial misconduct in case files. Within months, public defenders nationwide integrate the tool. Wrongful convictions plummet. Emily jokes that AI is now the intern who never sleeps. Legacy Gala. At a gala commemorating the Redemption Project's 5000th exoneration, Emily presents Morales with the Guardian of Justice Award. He dedicates it to every cop brave enough to break the blue wall. Tears flow. Even seasoned reporters wipe their eyes. Winds of change. Congress passes the Sanders-Holt Act, capping private prison profits and mandating independent audits. President Fernandez signs it with Rebecca, Emily, and Owen at her side. The bill's pen is later placed in the National Archives beside historic civil rights artifacts. Full circle. Emily receives an invitation to preside as pro tem judge for a juvenile justice initiative. On her first day wearing the robe, she sees a trembling 10-year-old girl whose mother faces fraud charges eerily similar to Rebecca's old case. Emily leans forward, voice gentle. "You're safe here. Tell us what you know." History loops, but this time the system is ready to listen. Passing the torch. At Columbia's graduation, Emily, now 35, hooded as Doctor of Judicial Science, delivers the commencement address. Justice isn't a destination. It's relay. Run your leg, then pass the baton. In the crowd, Rebecca beams. Morales and Liam stand hand in hand with their families. Owen livestreams the speech to thousands of freed clients. The Global Summit. Geneva hosts the first international conference on carceral reform. Emily co-chairs with South African jurist Thandai Nkosi. Delegates craft the Geneva Compact, pledging to cut global private prison populations in half within a decade. Quiet revolutions. Back home, Rebecca's restorative family model is replicated in 22 states. Scholars dub it the Sanders method. Crime statistics show empathy can be better deterrent than punishment. Critics grow quieter as numbers rise. The mentor. Emily mentors Jordan Ahmad, a first-generation Afghan-American law student who survived domestic coercion. Jordan's senior thesis, supervised by Emily, unearths yet another layer of systemic exploitation, payday loan companies feeding off-court fines. The fire in the Phoenix. A suspicious fire guts Redemption Project headquarters. Digital backups survive, but morale plummets. Emily convenes staff in a rented hall. They can burn buildings, not purpose. Donors rally. Within weeks, a larger, greener campus rises, a Phoenix logo emblazoned on glass. Echoes of Troy. From prison, Troy Mathers writes a contrite letter begging Rebecca's forgiveness and offering to testify against untouched accomplices. Rebecca visits to look him in the eye. She accepts the testimony, not for him, but for justice, and walks out without another word. The cascade. Troy's deposition triggers fresh indictments against banking executives once thought untouchable. Cameras capture perp walks of gray-suited titans. Public trust in institutions edges upward for the first time in a generation. The Golden Gavel. The American Bar Association awards Emily its highest honor, the Golden Gavel, citing transformative impact on jurisprudence worldwide. In her speech, she credits a 5-year-old girl who knew truth could topple mountains. Twilight of a Giant. Judge Wexler passes away peacefully, 92, holding Rebecca's hand. His will establishes the Ronald Wexler Fellowship for Child Advocacy Law. At his funeral, Emily reads his favorite Whitman lines. "I am large. I contain multitudes." The crowd of former clients, jurists, and students embodies that multitudes indeed. Homecoming. Emily and Rebecca return to the same Albany courtroom where Emily once stood alone before Wexler. It has been renovated and renamed the Justice Hall of Emily Sanders. A bronze statue of a small girl clutching a teddy bear stands near the entrance, a permanent reminder that courage has no age. The end of the beginning. On a crisp autumn morning, Emily swears in Jordan Ahmad as the newest staff attorney at Redemption Project. As leaves drift outside, Emily reflects, CYCL. ES of oppression still exist, but so do cycles. Of L. Iberation. She closes her journal with the word S. We did not finish the story, we open a library. Above her desk hangs a S. Imple wooden placard carved. by Rebecca long ago. The day truth wore pigtails. Emily runs a finger over the letters, smiles, and steps into the corridor where new clients wait. Proof that justice remains a living, breathing promise. The end.